Welcome to the next level. Here on the Sky Peak, Ninja Fever has basically taken over the place.
In the past 3 days, I haven't slept, I haven't bathed, my internet search history is filled with lewd images of April O'Neil, and when I'm really desperate, Venus de Milo. And while all of that is normal, I can't stop playing the Konami TMNT games.
We gotta stop checking in on Prower. And in the meantime, Rudy has seen every ninja movie known to man.
You wouldn't believe how much artistic integrity Ninja Cheerleaders has.
Yeah, I don't believe it at all. Hey Anthony, what's up?
Where is my video? I don't keep you in this 90s CGI-inspired hellscape for nothing, you know.
Look, I'm on it, okay? I'm going to do...
Ninja Turtles?
I'm not talking to you until you take a shower.
There's lots of ninja stuff there. Having 80s fever?
You ought to know since you witnessed the 80s.
Yeah, Jardy just lives in the past. There's a difference.
Prower, get in the shower.
So, are you doing a Ninja Turtles video?
Nah, there's just way too much to cover. And I can't get Rudy started on fast food pizza again. If he goes on one more...
If I have to eat Domino's one more time, ti prendo il culo, te lo apro in due, te lo getto nel piave.
He won't stop.
I pesci te la mangiano e...
We are not doing Ninja Turtles.
You hurt me.
We're going to cover a legendary ninja game known only as...
Ninja Gaiden? I thought you couldn't beat that.
Can you beat Ninja Gaiden?
I mean, no, but I'm not the one making game reviews, am I?
By 1986, it was clear that Sega needed to look towards the future to have any hope in combating Nintendo and their Famicom. And unfortunately, the Sega Master System wasn't doing the job. Alex Kidd was not going to sell anybody a Sega Master System. This is the part of the video where someone wants to remind me that Europe and Brazil loved the Master System. And first off, I'll counter with the trap card. It wasn't because of this Dork. The Master System is still sold in parts of Brazil, and all that time has barely outsold the Wii U, while the NES hasn't been made since 1995 and has sold 6 times that. So was it really a success? I'm not saying it should be a sin to be European, but 50Hz Sonic 1 should be! It was decided really quickly then that another console would have to be introduced. The new machine would be based on the popular Sega System 16 arcade board, first released in 1985, and powering many of the company's greatest arcade hits, such as Fantasy Zone, Altered Beast, Golden Axe, and most importantly, for this story at least, Shinobi. Released in late 1987, Shinobi gave you control of a legendary ninja set on saving the children of his Oboro ninja clan from a terrorist organization calling themselves Zed. To say Shinobi is a success is kinda an understatement. It topped charts in Japan and the United States in both 88 and 89, and it kinda helped that the game came out during the ninja boom of the 1980s. It was an innocent time where Japan was known for swords and nunchucks, and not tentacle porn. Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis depending on territory, would also see release in late 1988 in Japan and in August of 89 in North America. While scaled back from the power of the arcade board it was based upon, the system was the most powerful consumer-based gaming console released at that time. However, it couldn't have come out at a worse time. Super Mario Bros. 3 was released in Japan and quickly became the biggest game of that time.
That's like hitting a kid with a snowball and them responding with a 12 gauge.
With Mario Mania in the air, little interest is given to Sega's more powerful machine. Therefore, it was up to Sega's in-house teams to step up to the plate and provide their platform with content themselves. They weren't going to get any third parties to develop games for them unless they could prove themselves worthy of competing with Nintendo.
Genesis Dutch!
We've got Arnold f***ing Palmer!
Plenty of ports of their arcade hits were made, like Altered Beast, Super Hang-On, and Golden Axe. Some sequels even to their arcade and Master System games, like Space Harrier 2, Phantasy Star 2, and for some reason, Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle. Sega had even licensed and outsourced two of Capcom's arcade hits as well, such as Strider and Ghouls and Ghosts. Capcom wasn't willing to develop these ports, so Sega had to step up and do them themselves, but even having those was a big deal at the time. This was all well and good, as Sega was trying to get all of its major franchises on the console as quickly as possible, but Shinobi was already ported to numerous home consoles, including the Sega Master System. It was quickly decided then that a sequel to the game would be the best path forward. While another Shinobi was in development for the arcade market, Shadow Dancer, which would also see a release on the Genesis a year later. Yeah, I didn't say this wasn't confusing. I guess you could say they really screwed the pooch on that one. Hey there, I'm gonna let you in on a little fun behind the scenes secret. This joke was really hard to write. So if you aren't happy with our final bit here, here's a list of our rejected versions, and hopefully you can pick out your favorite. Developing 16 games in a year is a hell of a task no matter who you are. So of course, Sega was hiring just about anybody to keep the games coming.
I swear I only murdered 3 people last week.
Great. You'll be on the Super Thunderblade team.
I'd rather kill a guy.
We all would.
One of those was Noroboshi Oba, a young man fresh out of college who majored in marketing with no game experience whatsoever. Despite this, he was quickly handed the rights to plan out a sequel to Shinobi and was given lots of creative freedom to do so. Creative freedom is kind of an understatement, so keep that in mind. Oba quickly noticed the differences in the home video game and arcade industry instantly. With an arcade game, a player was expected to only last a couple minutes with a single quarter. The level design was usually unfair in most regards to keep the players putting those quarters in, but generally the experience is fast and exciting in order to incentivize players to keep going. A home video game was paid for up front.
Are we talking about buying video games or buying prostitutes? Because I am down for both.
While excited to work with the series, as ninjas were again a huge thing in the 80s, he realized really quickly that the best chance of success would be to market the game towards the Western market. Ninjas were used prominently in action films of that time, which Oba saw as unrealistic, but it led to the design being made for a fun action game, with heavy, and I do mean heavy, roots in Western pop culture. Oba, of course, was not alone on this project. Chief designer Naohiro Warama shared the planner's vision of a game inspired by the action films of the era, but added various more Japanese elements to his work. Takashi Yuta would also be given his start on the project, later being responsible for the art design in the Mickey Mouse game The Castle of Illusion and Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Freelance musician Yuzo Koshiro was brought on to do the soundtrack of the game, and even as a relatively new artist, his work was legendary on the game, due to, in part at least, the massive club music influence, again thanks to being inspired by what was popular around him at that time. Oba had given the young musician very little guidance, and what was made for the game has led to it still being well known today as a legendary soundtrack in the Sega library. And even though Oba believed that Sega had little faith in the game, he was proven wrong, as heavy advertising and marketing was made to push the game before its release at several trade shows. The game, released in late '89 as the Super Shinobi in Japan, would of course be renamed the Revenge of Shinobi for the Western market.
So which is it? Is he getting Super or is he getting his revenge?
Yes.
What?
Looking back, it's no wonder why Revenge of Shinobi is the best of the early Genesis lineup. But whatever they were thinking making this Putz the mascot is beyond me.
Dude looks like the Hamburglar went through rehab.
You know what? He kinda looks like me without my glasses.
Help me, God, please, no.
Taking place 3 years after the original arcade game, the criminal organization Zed is back, renaming itself Neo Zed, and they immediately murder Masashi's master and kidnap his bride Naoko.
Okay, so if I was bringing back my criminal organization, the first thing I would do is not piss off the guy who single-handedly beat our ass the first time around.
Honestly though, for a video game plot from the late 80s, having her be your bride instead of a girlfriend feels somewhat progressive.
The game, at first, is structured similarly to the arcade original. You can still jump, throw shuriken from a distance, and you still have the melee attack, starting as either a jab with a shuriken, or if you're crouching, a sidekick. That is not to say old Joe Musashi.
Hold up, his name is Joe?
Yes, Joe Musashi. The US manual leaves that out, although I really have no idea why.
The legendary Shinobi and Ninja Master, super badass who took down an entire crime syndicate. on his own. And his name is Joe?
You dare insult the name of a mighty warrior? I'll have you know the name of Joe strikes fear in the hearts of many Japanese families.
Joe the Ninja Master will no longer die to a single hit, as he has got a health bar now. Thankfully, a move to turn this Shinobi game into more of a home experience. To raise the stakes, in exchange for, being able to not drop dead from a single attack, Joe has also gained a limit on the amount of throwing stars he starts with.
Makes sense. When you get older, you can't carry an infinite amount of deadly traditional Japanese throwing knives. There's a number on the old back.
You also have a double jump and a multi-directional shuriken attack that uses up 8 shuriken, but it can be devastating to anything around you in the right situation, especially if you have the most creatively named upgrade in the world. The Power Up not only makes your shuriken stronger, but Joe also remembers he's got a sword, and your melee attack goes from a wimpy kick to wha-bam! This attack can destroy almost any enemy in seconds. Joe also remembers that, getting hit hurts, and while walking, he can block attacks with the shuriken. Joe loses his power up when he's hit, but outside of his cool new flashy upgraded shurikens, you have to wonder why he can't use his other abilities, like his sword or even, just block.
The power-up is just Joe getting common sense.
It definitely sounds like you are well equipped for this adventure.
But wait, there's still more.
In Shinobi Arcade, you had multiple magic spells you can use, 1 per arcade credit. In the Revenge of Shinobi, you still have 1 use per life, but you can occasionally find extra ninjutsu in the form of power-ups, like the normal stuff like, power-ups and extra shurikens and lives. This time though, you can pick the magic at will. The magic ninjutsus are Ninjutsu of Ikazuchi, or the Art of Thunder, creates an armor of thunder, and come on, what's more badass than thunder armor? This is probably the most useful of the spells, as it lets you take about 3 to 5 extra hits without taking damage, give or take, which if you combine it with the power-up item, it can easily take you through levels. Imagine if in Castlevania you could turn on a 5 to 6 hit invincibility that also makes you immune to knockback. This is insane. The ninjutsu of Kairu, or the Art of the Fire Dragon, is a screen-wide fire attack, and is the least useful one in my opinion. It can be helpful, but as far as magic that is basically just a super attack, we got a better option. The ninjutsu of Fushin, or the Art of the Floating Body, allows you to jump way higher. This is the most simple one to explain, but it can completely destroy a vertical stage. Ninjutsu of Mijin, or Art of the Particle, is a seriously badass ninjutsu. It's another super attack, like Kairu, but it does more damage at the cost of a life. This wouldn't seem that helpful until you realize that's all it costs. You respawn immediately, you have full health, and even still have ninjutsu. If you're struggling with a stage, you can easily just use Mijin, and instead of restarting, you can continue right there. And lives are pretty trivial on any difficulty if you know what you're doing, so you can easily abuse this ninjutsu if you know where and how. Finally, and I just noticed this while playing recently, after the score gets to 100,000 points, your maximum hit points also increase. This can be pretty hard to notice unless you're specifically paying attention to your score and health bar, but getting a game over and continuing near the end of the game can be devastating since you lose your extra health bars. And that's pretty much all there is to this game. Simplistic, sure, but you'll need to master these abilities and find your way through the 24 levels.
Oh man, jitsus are so cool! That's why I've decided to learn some for my very own.
This ought to be good.
Let me introduce you to Shadow Clone Jitsu. Whoa! Okay, that definitely wasn't supposed to happen.
What the?
Rudy, protect your innocent nature!
I don't know about you guys. I can get used to this.
Let's just change you back before this becomes like a whole thing.
Wait, not before I do what I've always wanted to do in the body of a woman.
Of course you've thought about that. Stop playing with yourself! The first area takes place in Oboro Village, located in the Ibaraki province of Japan. There's a beautiful transition from sunset to night in the first part, and the second level sends Joe through multiple ancient Japanese temples. This level has some of the only maze elements, foreshadowing the end of the game. The boss of the level, a samurai named Blue Lobster, the trick you have to learn is that you have to get close to bait him into swinging his sword, and then quickly dodge out of the way and counter with a jump attack. I find it can be hard to get the timing right, but once you get it, you got it. Stage 2 takes place in Tokyo. Not that level 1 looks like Tokyo with this waterfall stage. These vampire ninja jerks can be a real pain. In the second part, you get to Tokyo kind of looking like the sparkling zone from Prototype Sonic 1. The biggest danger here are all the bottomless pits.
That bastard Dig Dug was a menace.
Once you surpass that, you fight a golden ninja with multiple afterimages. The trick is to let him jump, stay within sweeping distance, and hit him repeatedly. Keep doing this until he runs out of afterimages, then it's easy to make him a ninja dartboard and just wail on him for victory. Stage 3 takes place in a military base in the United States, and 3-1 will definitely test you as you have literally an army of Rambos trying to kill you.
You remember that part in Rambo where he cloned himself to fight a ninja?
You know, that's pretty on point for an 80s action movie.
Stage 2 can be pretty frustrating if you lack good timing, or you can cheat like I do. Now we deal with this thing. It's got a laser mounted on the wall, kind of like Wing Fortress Zone, and your goal is to hit its brain, I guess, 1,000,000 times and then you win. I don't know who discovered this, but if you bring the laser all the way to the left and just walk into the right with a power up, so you're automatically blocking, you can walk right through the tube the brain is hiding in as it opens, and walking into the brain hurts it. If you keep on it, just walking in place, you'll kill it in seconds. I don't know any other part of the game where blocking hurts things, but believe me, you do not want to fight this thing the normal way. Just thank the game this works and just move on. So now in round 4, we are in the very iconic and well-known ninja-based location of Detroit.
Joe the Ninja in Detroit Hill Zone.
If you can survive this first area, here's a trick to make it so that anyone can beat this game. At the beginning of the factory in 4-2, use your double jump attack to reveal a secret extra life right above a pit. It seems like suicide to try to get it, but there's actually 2 extra lives there. Spend like 10 minutes here, you can easily max out on lives to be able to exploit your Mijin technique. After exploring the factory though, we come across the Terminator?
The Terminator. You fight the Terminator? Well, what? Was Stallone not enough? And he turns into the Hulk?
I mean, there has to be a reasonable explanation.
A reasonable explanation? We just saw a copyright infringement double whammy. How did they get the rights to these characters?
Somehow, and I am just spitballing here, I don't think they did.
This next part takes place in an area called Area Code 818. Well, after the fantastic fictional area of Detroit, I guess the developers just didn't know how to top that.
Who can blame them?
5-1 is a massive building interior that is a breeze with the levitation magic, allowing you to easily jump through the stage. On the other hand, 5-2 can be tricky. It might actually be the hardest stage in the game, as the foreground and background switching mechanic with the double jump returns from 3-1, but this time the foreground is filled with bottomless pits, and there are speeding red cars that can quickly kill you. My strategy is to take this part slow, and use the Mijin to keep going if you do get hit a lot. When you get close to the end, switch to your lightning magic.
Legendary Magical Ninja Joe versus drunk drivers.
Not to mention the ninja girls disguised as nuns. I'm guessing it's a developer's poorly hidden fetish.
Not mine.
You were literally cranking it to a Ninja Turtle with tits. But nuns are the limit for you?
Women of the church should not be graciously objectified, as it is their duty to serve God and spread the holy virtues of the Lord.
What? The next stage takes place in Chinatown. What a beautiful stage and background track. Oba said he got chills listening to the demo for this song for the first time, and I don't blame him. You mostly take on Bruce Lee wannabes and some of these guys with these poles. The trick is to let them swing and then get close and chopping them up with the sword, or at the very least, kicking them in the ankle like a child. There's also the girls that seem to have been trained by Chun-Li, but if you defeat them, instead of falling over and dying like anyone else in the game, Joe rips their tops off and they cover themselves. The next stage is on a train. The random metal, I think girders, are a pain, but after this...
Wait, that's Spider-Man! The Japanese crime lord is fucking Spider-Man working for him?
I recommend using Mijin here to quickly deal with him as he transforms into Batman.
Batman and Spider-Man? What, did every lawyer in 1989 just get stuck in traffic or something?
So apparently this guy is a shapeshifter. That's good. This game was getting kinda ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. That's where your disbelief ends, right?
Stage 7 takes place in New York, and 7-1 is brutal. You can either use your jumping or invincibility magics to help you out, but unfortunately you can't use both. It usually takes me a few lives to get through this area thanks to knockback and the constantly appearing jumping ninjas, but if you got through here, congrats, you've beaten the hardest stage in the game. 7-2 is much easier. The machine gunners can be annoying and there's a few leaps of faith that will often lead to burnt ninja feet, but you'll likely get through it no problem. Oh, by the way, the boss here is...
Godzilla? Godzilla? They have Godzilla now? You fought the Terminator, Spider-Man, Batman, and Godzilla. Not to mention multiple Rambos and Bruce Lees.
Yeah, and?
They bought off Godzilla, an allegory for nuclear war, with money.
Ah, who needs integrity? Don't forget, subscribe to Blue Genocide. Just use 3 Mijins. I don't feel bad about it. It's Godzilla. I hate that this game sets up the Godzilla fight in New York. It makes me think that it inspired the 1998 movie, and just thinking of that train wreck makes me want to destroy Tokyo myself.
Nobody but you would have made that connection.
Well, remember, Jardy, in the 1968 film Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla ended up brainwashed and attacking New York, which may have been the inspiration for this. It's not like that god-awful Godzilla 1998 even existed.
Hey, you're right. Thanks, Rudy. Stage 8, the Neozine Marine Land. Marine Stronghold. 8-1 has these turret cannons you do not want to get hit by, but it's not so bad. The final challenge is 8-2 really. You make it here, you'll beat the game. The challenge is that, unlike every other stage in this game other than 1-2, it's a maze, but you can easily find a guide online that'll lead you down a path. Make sure you grab the extra ninjutsu in the secret path and this power-up hidden at the end of the stage. You want to have 2 ninjutsu stocked up and your power-up to easily destroy the final boss. Now, so far, we've fought Godzilla, the Terminator, multiple Rambos, Spider-Man and Batman, and possibly Bruce Lee. So who could possibly be left? You just turn on Ikazuchi, kneel like this is Dark Link in Zelda 2, and golf swing your sword into his face while he tries to hurt you. When you lose your Ikazuchi, use it again and keep beating his face in. With the sword, he'll die in no time, and you will get the good ending. There is a bad ending if you fight him without this strategy and you don't beat him in time. Your wife being crushed, leading to an alternate ending. Regardless of what ending you choose to get, it doesn't really matter in the long run, since Shinobi 3 never even mentions her. So for all we know, Joe suffered a tragic divorce between entries.
It's really cool how easy stealing was back in the day.
You know, it's really kind of sad how we can never see a game like this today.
With every corporation holding onto their IPs like their Pokemon, it's not hard to see why.
Like, I get it. Theft is theft, but even light-hearted parodies and other fan-made creations are scrubbed from the internet, and it's almost impossible to stand up for yourself, especially against corporate behemoths like Disney or Warner Brothers.
That's a pretty glum way to look at it. We should be glad that we got to punch out nuns and robots.
And I got to learn my iconic new magic spell, which I proceed to use in every video from now on. Sexy Lady Jitsu. Oh, now it works. I quit ninja stuff. This sucks.
As mentioned before, The Revenge of Shinobi contains tons of copyright infringement.
What? No! I'm sure a Rambo character named Rocky is completely legal and under fair use.
The game has had multiple revisions to account for this. The earliest revisions taking out Rambo and Batman, but keeping Spider-Man, as Sega actually had the rights to use Spider-Man at that time. So the shapeshifter was able to transform into the famous spider for a little bit. The next revision turned Godzilla into a pile of bones.
So, Bowser isn't the only one who can do that, huh?
And finally, for the Wii Virtual Console release, and most recent, the latest revision turns Spider-Man pink and changes the face of the ninja on the title screen. The original depicts actor Sonny Chiba from his scenes in a show called Kage no Gundam.
Even the title screen was copyright infringement?
The newer phase depicts Tsuyoshi Matsuoka, a director at M2 who handled this new revision. Because of these legal issues, you'd think that the original version of The Revenge of Shinobi would never see a re-release, since even now it can lead to some pretty heavy lawsuits. And to be fair, it hasn't, but they did release a prototype.
What?
For a compilation called the Sega Smash Pack, released in 2001 for PC, Sega included a prototype instead of the final release.
What?
It should have been pretty obvious from the beginning, as it uses the Super Shinobi name no matter where you are in the world. There are several typos, the music is shuffled around. For instance, the first level plays the Chinatown music. Of the 19 tracks of the final, only 7 are in the prototype, and all of those are changed slightly. Several bosses are unfinished, you can't even beat the game, the final boss isn't there, and the game just loops.
How does nobody check that?
They actually did it twice. Probably. Okay, so going into the ROM led to 2 different discoveries. One, remnants of a baseball minigame that Oba had mentioned in a 2003 interview that was scrapped due to lack of time and memory limitations, and the header data lists the Sega channel. For those that don't know, the Sega channel was a subscription service from the mid-90s that allowed your Genesis to connect to your cable box to stream games to your console and other benefits. It was pretty ahead of its time, but this likely means that this was the ROM they broadcast over the service. We have no way of proving that, since the service ended support when I was 7 months old.
Damn! Get born earlier next time.
But considering they let it get into a retail release like a PC collection in 2001, tells me it probably did end up on there. When comparing it to the NES game releases of 1989, as good as some of those games can be, I think it can't be overstated how much of a leap forward in technology this game demonstrates. And honestly, even if the graphics no longer impress 30 years later, I think you can appreciate this classic for shedding its arcade pedigree, even just a little bit, to create a fun and replayable classic on the same level of other 16-bit classics. Sonic wouldn't appear on the market for another 16 months, give or take, and I don't think any game really demonstrates Sega's transition from the arcade sensibilities of the late 80s to home video game design better. It might be a little rough in places, but this game is unmistakably Sega, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, I'm starting to get kinda used to this little cast we have going on here. As long as we maintain a comfortable amount of people on this ship, we should be able to get through this relatively.
Well, who could that be?
I was watching YouTube and I saw you were reviewing Ninja Turtles and Neelius Ladulong once in it, baby.
Yeah, sorry. We're actually doing Shinobi. Another great ninja series though, I might add.
That's disappointing. I guess I should just head back to my space car, which I just so happen to live in.
You have a car! Hey, maybe you could give us a lift back to Earth.
I don't see why not. Follow me! Did I crash here?
Ah!
Welcome aboard!